Yes.
It's visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is our agenda where we are gonna talk something about variables, their types, variables panel, what is basically scope of variable, why the concept of arguments came into picture, what are the different types of arguments we have, what is arguments panel, and what is the basic difference between an argument and a variable. Okay, fine. So when we are talking something about variables, so let's try to understand what is a basic definition of a variable here. So variables are simply a placeholder where it stores some data in a memory location of a computer and all. So it's nothing but this, it stores a data, it might be a single value, it can be multiple values. So if it is a single value, we term those type of variables as scalar variables. Examples are string data type and also boolean and integer and data type values. So if you are trying to store multiple values, so we're going to call it as collection variables. So simple basic examples are array, list, collection, as well as dictionary and the data type, right? So what is the basic purpose of utilizing variables? So let's say that there are some 20 places where you write your email ID in a particular program. Okay, you have hard coded your particular values. So now you need to change the particular value of the particular email ID. So no need to go to all these 20 places. If you just create a variable, you just update the value of the particular value or the variable. In all the 20 instances, it will be changed. Right? To avoid that sort of repetitive change of values in all the program, we just try to utilize the variables and all. And it's also best practice to make sure that you are creating variables to avoid this uh, change of values, which happens very frequently. Okay. So makes it easier to label and store data, which can be later be used throughout your automation process. So has initial value, which can be changed during execution through an external input data manipulation or passing some one activity to another. Exactly. It's like a box that stores the data. Simply, it's variables are containers that are used to store multiple types of data, right? So when you try to create a variable, so these were the four things you need to keep in mind. So name, type, value, and the scope. So when you're trying to provide the name of the variable, you just need to make sure that it's a best practice to just go with a prefix of the type as well as the camel case. So let's say that I want to create uh, a value for a variable for a first name. So what I'll do is str first name is something where I'll try to create. So what is a type? So kind of data you're trying to store, whether it's a string, integer, or else it's a boolean or data type. So that is what we call as a type. So value. So value is something where you're trying to provide initial value here. So default values we are just trying to provide during start of a particular creation. Scope. So it is nothing but it's designates parts of program that can use a variable. It can be local or global variables. So you'll able to understand what is the scope of variable while we are just trying to create the things and all. So best practices for naming variables, use clear and meaningful names. So if it's first name, let's try to go with the str first name. If it's account number, so we'll try to go with the account number. So use camel cases, assign names in consistent manner, keep the variable names descriptive and short. Okay. So these were some of the naming best practices for your particular variables and all. So we have different types of variables. So we talk something about string, boolean, number, data type, and also array data table in a present session. So it's going to talk. So string is nothing but coming to the basic definition. The string variable helps to store any sequence of text. It's nothing but a combination of characters stored in between double quotes. That's basically a string variable. To store text and reuse in the code for specific actions. That is the purpose of usage. And this is an example like how you can just create those things. Right? So we'll just jump into and practically see how these things are created and all. Okay. So introduction to variables panel. So this is where you can just see the variables panel and all. So where you have your name, variable type, scope, and default value, which you need to provide. And let's see how we can just create variables and all. So let's go to the classroom exercise. Right. So let me just open UiPath. I'll just create a new process. So it just takes some couple of minutes to just provide basic dependencies for creating our particular projects and all. Fine. So this is where you can just see our particular user interface once we just create a project and all. I'll just create a new flowchart. So I'll just name it as variables underscore string. I'll just create the things for us. Right. So what I want to do is basically, so let's say I just want to create a variable. So I'll just create a variable which is called str and the first value basically is like hello. Okay. So once you just create here, I just want to utilize the message box to just print the particular value. So I'll just drag and drop simply here to just make sure my value is getting printed. To pass your value, I will just try to say that this is my value which I needs to get printed. So what I'll do, I'll just please simply click on run file where it will run your present file and your value got printed here. Right. So let's say I just want to assign a new value to this particular variable. So what I'll do, I'll use an assign. To make sure that you are assigning new values for this particular str variable. So what is the value I just want to provide? So I want to say like hello you. Okay. Just save here. And after which I just want to run again my particular value. So you can just simply copy paste your activities here. So what I've done is Control C, Control V, where I can just copy the things. I can delete the things, right? I can also enable and disable things. So let's say that I don't want to print your initial message box. You can simply go with Control D, where the activity gets commented out. So if you want to enable the same activity, you can go with Control E, right? So first message box which gets printed is hello world with earlier value, and a new assign was created so that the value got updated to the hello year month, right? So we are just using assign to just update your particular existing value, right? The similar way, let's say that I just want to print something in the output panel. So what is the activity I'll use? I'll use an activity called write line. The write line, let's say that I don't want to print all these message boxes. So control D. I just want to utilize this str variable to just get printed in my output panel. So before assign value and after the assign value, right? So simply you need to make sure that you are just trying to keep your particular activities connected wherever it is required, right? And it's also mandatory that you are just connecting with your start. Otherwise, you'll be not able to execute your particular sequence or a flow chart or a workflow what you are created. And it has simply executed our workflow. We can see that hello world and hello UiPath got executed, right? So the purpose of utilizing write line is to make sure that you are just trying to print some values uh, in the particular output panel, right? So let's say I just want to make sure that you are printing something here. So I'll say like double quotes value of a variable is, I'll just keep like place and str. So what I've done here is nothing but I'm just trying to say uh, whatever that was in the double quotes will be considered as a string value. So here I'm just saying like value of a variable is like hello, right? So I'm just trying to say that you can just write anything in the double quotes and that will be considered as a string variable, right? So let me just print here. First, you can just see the message box and consequently you can see two write lines getting printed in the output panel. So this is our execution status. So in the output panel, you can just see that execution started. It has printed the values, nothing but you can just print your logs and all that is required for your particular process. And you can just see how much time it has took. It took around like 2 seconds to complete the particular transaction. So this is something what we can do in terms of a string variable. So now something we have seen how to create a variable by just going to the variables panel, just providing name, variable type, scope, and the default value. And we have also seen how to just copy paste, enable or disable, and also we've seen how to utilize message box to print your data, right line to print your values in the output panel, assign to just update your particular values. And this was some of the activities we have just seen as of now. So now let's see how in programmatical way we can just create a variables with some shortcut key. So we'll now talk about the integer variables. We'll just create some integer variables here. Right. So what I want to do is nothing but I just want to add some two values or subtract some two values or multiply some two values. And the two values which I am trying to pass here. So what I'll do is I'll try to just get it from input dialog box, nothing but from the user I just want to get. So let's say I've just utilized input dialog for int var1. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So in the dialog title, say like please enter a number. Right. So I'll just utilize here. Please enter a number. So in the double quotes. So we can see any queries there. Does it make any difference in the logs? So we have different logging mechanism also. Okay. So now we are just talking about to perform some calculations. To perform calculations, right? Save. So here I will just provide a text box to enter the values. So what I'll do here, instead of going to the variables and just create the variable and assign the values here, you can just simply use Control K, int underscore where one is the value which I want to create. Right. If you now go to the variables which was created in this particular activity will automatically be shown here. So instead of string, I just want to change the value as integer 32 because I just want to do some calculations. Right. So similarly, I just want to copy paste. So, but this is for variable 2. So similarly, what I'll do, please enter a number to store some value. So what I'll do, so Control K, int underscore var2. So you can see automatically by just utilizing Control K, I can just create the variables and assign the same values here in the variables panel. So I'll just utilize int32 to make sure that I'm just having these two values. Right. So now I'll just use simply a message box to just say, so addition of two numbers is basically you are trying to go with the int var1 plus int var2, but you can just see there is some error because this is a string value and this is something called as an integer value, right? There was two different data types you are just trying to add, so it won't be just combined. So we are just converting our particular value which is added now into a string. So after adding values 10 plus 20, let's say 30, that value is now there in the double quotes. So if you just use dot to string, right? Dot to string is just simply converting your any value. Now we are just utilizing integer being converted into dot to string, right? Converting your any value into a string is basically done by utilizing a dot to string method, right? So let's try to just run this and see what happens. Run file. So please enter a number. Let's say I'll keep 100 value. So I'll enter another value called 200. So we'll get an outcome saying that so addition of two numbers is 300. Right. Fine. So let's say now I just want to add another thing inside this particular values in a new line. So what I'll do is I'll use VBCRLF function so that your value will be printed in the new line. Plus, so instead of going with the addition of two numbers, I just want to see like subtraction of two numbers, let's say. Okay. So instead of addition, I'll say like subtraction two numbers is int var minus int. Right. So we are just trying to make sure that we are trying to print in the message box in the new line. So new line will help us. That function is VBCRLF. And we can just write this particular value, subtraction of two numbers. So for the same numbers, you can do any sort of functions here. So let's say that I just want to multiply also. So what I'll do, I'll write VBCLF So which will help me to write or print the value in the new line in the message box. Okay. So let's say we have something called multiplication of two numbers is int var into var2, right? So let me just save this and execute our particular logic to see all these three operations getting executed in our particular workflow now. So let's say I'll enter a value called 50. So, and I'll enter a value called 10. So you have got addition of two numbers is 60. Subtraction of two numbers 50 minus 10 is 40. And multiplication of two numbers is 50 into 10 is basically 500, right? Right. So this is something where we can just, we have seen how to create variables using shortcut key called control K and how to utilize the input dialog. So let's say that here, it's not only input dialog can be provided in text box, it can be also in multiple choice, can be also in multiple choice. So for that, we just need to provide values here. So let's say 10, 20, 30. Let's see what happens here. So here also it's a multiple choice. So we'll just provide 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So let me run and see what are the values getting provided in the multiple choice. For the first pop-up, you will have a 10, 20, or 30. So let's say that I will just take a value of 30. In the second input dialog, you can select something called 3. And you can see like 30 plus 3 is 33, and 30 minus 3 is 27, and 30 into 3 is like 90. Right? It's not that only message box input dialog can store a single text box, can also have your values chosen in terms of provided the things. So, but the thing is that it should be in double quotes, and you just need to provide a semicolon separated between each value. So if you don't provide, it won't be provided that in the multiple choice options. Okay. So now let's try to see a basic data type functions. Okay. So what are the functions we are trying to write here? It's basically in the VB. Okay. So basic understanding of VB functions will help us in utilizing the functions related during our development and all. I'll just simply take the message box to have your values created here in terms of now. So what is this now? It's a function which will try to print your date and time. Okay. So what I'll say double quotes, date and time is basically now. So since it's a date time function and it's a string value, again, you cannot uh, print those value, and it was saying the same thing. So I'll just say like just you would use plus symbol and convert that to string. Okay, as simple as that. So what it will just try to print, it will try to print 1703-2024 with the timestamp of 10:01:44 seconds, right? So now let's say that I just want to just print only my uh, I just want to print only my year. So again, I'll use VBCRLF to just get some new line created for us. And so now I just want to create what? I just want to create an year. I want to print an year. So what I'll do now dot, if you just provide now dot, so these were all the functions you can just create for the now, right? So now what I'm trying to search, I'm trying to search for year, right? So I'll just go with year. So which will try to provide me the year, right? I'll just try to click on values. So where we have just got now dot year. So where the year is 2024, right? So you can write multiple functions here. So let's say that I just want to add some, let's say days. Okay. What I will say is adding 7 days to my existing value, right? So what I'll do plus now dot add days, and how many days you want to add. So let's say that I want to add 7 days, and you are just trying to say that string, right? So in similar way, let's say that I just want to see only date only, not the times and all. So what you can do is only, let's say that I want to go with only time. Right. So plus now dot to, so where I want to see only time, right? So I'm just converting that into too long time string. Let's say that I just want to PVCRLF, and I want to just see only the date in a long format, not the time. So what I can do is now dot to long date string, right? So these were some functions we can just perform, and let's see after execution what is the values you're trying to get. You can see the date and time. So 3/17/10/4/40. So after adding 7 days, it's been moved to 24. So yeah, what is the year? It's 2024. What is the time? It's 10/4/40 seconds. And what is the date? It's Sunday, 17th March 2024. So you just need to make sure that based on your requirements, why I'm like based on your requirement, business requirement, let's say that you want to uh, process only files from the present day to the previous 7 days itself. So how we can just do that? So using these particular functions where you'll write some logics and all. So instead of adding 7 days, I'll subtract 7 days. Okay, so simply in the add days, you'll provide -7 here. So what is the present date? It's 17. If you just use -7, it will be moving to 10th. So now in the input of your Excel, you have some data that of your previous month, but you want to process only data for the 10 to 17. So these functions will help us in trying to just do that in a dynamic way and all. Okay, fine.
Hello,
So
sir.
this is some, yes, please. Somebody is
Yeah,
asking.
can you tell me please how to convert the DDMMYY or date format MMDDYY? Because this days is showing is MMDDYY format. So I want DDMMYY format. So can you please tell me?
Okay, yeah, sure. So you were asking that, okay, so convert. So let's see how our autopilots will work us. So we have also, so let's say that I'm just using the message box here, right? So in the message box at the down, you have something called describe your expression in the natural expression, right? So, so print or convert present date at time in TD YY format. So you can see this is the function, right? So though I don't know my present date or time format. See, I've just given a simple expression which was uh, automatically created for us. So this is something a new feature of autopilot we have here, where we can just simply provide anything which is required for us. So let's save and run. So you have got your 170324 format, right? So in the message boxes or in the so autopilot is a new feature which we have here in creating the expressions and all. You can just simply provide your thing. So convert so present date time to get only present day. Let's say. So now dot day will just provide you what is the day? It's like Sunday, right? Mm. Though I don't know the function, basically, it's 17th, right? So though I don't know the function, so somebody asked like, is there any sort of documents where you can just have all these things? So this is something where you can just, though you don't know, you know what you actually want to write or derive from a particular logic. So this is where you can write your expressions. Right. So this is something been there from 2023.12 version, where the autopilot feature got introduced in the studio for creating the expressions and all. Okay. So till now, any doubts, please do let me know. We have seen something about variables, which is of string type, integer type, and data type functions. And we have just seen how to create the variables using your variables panels as well as shortcut keys. And we have introduced some concepts related to activities related to message box, write line,
Hello?
assign. Yes, please. Subham, somebody's asking doubt.
How to
Yes.
get that expression editor? Can you please show me?
So you can just see in any of your activities. Let's say that in the message box, I'll just open it from scratch. You simply drag and drop your message box, right? So if you just expand this thing, you can have your expression in it, right? And you can just write here something. If you know what you are trying to print, you can do that. If you don't know, you can just write something like print a random value, I'll say. So it is saying like new random of next, right? So I'll just click this, click on save. So I'll just run the file. So it just prints me a random value, right? So I can also use wherever the expression editor is there. Let's say that in the SR I also have some expression editor. Right. So here also you can just write your expression editor. So wherever there is something, the scope of expressions being written, you can utilize this autopilot feature where you can just write those things. Right?
Hello.
Are we clear as of now?
Yeah, I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
In the message box, we see the curly braces at the side. Does that mean that message box always takes value in a key value form, key value pair format?
So where it is message
In the
box.
message box, if you double click, you see at the left side there is a curly braces. No, 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 not there. If you could go back. You are seeing that just below the text, where the text is written, there is
No,
a this curly.
it is something a symbol just to say like the message to display. So message box
Oh,
takes only like it will also take other data types also. Mostly if you just want to have your string type getting printed, it's in the double quotes. If I just open the editor here, it doesn't shows me anything which was in the curly braces here. So it's just a what I can say, like a simple logo type they have just utilized.
Okay, and like, is there a like, let's say suppose if this part fails, can we attain a parallel processing in this? Like, let's say if this message box is not able to execute, can we go into the second path also with the like? Is there a way to attain parallel processing in the UI path?
Yes, we can also do that. So let's say that you are trying to enter some value in a web-based application, but you are not able to achieve that particular task. So generally, what you do manually, so you'll just try to close your particular application and relaunch it, right? So that is
Yes.
why how you try to handle your particular exceptions. There is some other scenario also. Let's say there might be unexpected pop-ups coming during your execution at any instance. Let's say that you're trying to enter some value, a pop-up came. So how you need to handle is something using parallel executions. So you have an analytical parallel where you can just see, apply this particular logic. If something during your execution at second step or fifth step or 10th step, some pop-up might come into picture, then you try to parallelly click on the particular things, right? So that is where you can do those things too.
Thank you.
So let's presently just concentrate on these particular topics of variables and all different types of variables, which will help us in having a deeper understanding going forward and all. Okay, fine. Are we clear as of now? Hope we are clear. Let's jump into creating some collection type of variables and all. So let's say that I'm trying to create some array variable here. Array underscore var. So here the variable type is basically array. I'll try to create array variable type of strings, where I'll use an assign to assign the values related to this array type variable. I'm just saying like it's an array variable. Sorry. And the variables have created array variable of string type. Okay. So I'm trying to assign the values to this array type variable. So if you're trying to create an array type variable, your value should be in the curly braces. So let's say that I'm trying to enter the values called Kiran, Pradeep, Trudu. Right, these are the three values I'm trying to utilize. So to get how we can get the count here. So we can just use a message box to just get how many values are there in this particular array type variable. So now we are seeing how we can store multiple values in the same variable here. So to get the count, what I can do is where I'll say array type variable dot count, simply dot count. Okay, dot to string because it's a number. Again, we're converting that to a string, right? Count of array underscore var is basically this thing. Since we have three values, the index starts from 0. Nothing but 0, 1, 2 are the values. You can see inside the array type variable what you have created. Right? Count of array variable. So let's say that I want to get a single value from this particular thing. So what I'll do, I'll use that in the previous left to just print in the new line. How to get a single value from the array type variable. We need to provide the index here. So array variable of 0. So what it will try to do, it will try to print the value called Kiran. So array var of 2. What it will do, it will try to print the value of path2, which is the third value. Array var of 1. What it will do, it will try to print the value of Pradeep. Right. So let's see whether it will able to print the value for Pradeep or not. Yes, it has printed a value for Pradeep. So let's say that using the same message box, I'll try to print array variables. Till now we have seen how to print array variable or an integer or else a data function, right? So let's say I want to print the array variable. So let's see what happens if I just passed a message box with array variable data. What it will try to print? Yes, it says the count of array variable is 3 and the Pradeep value got printed. But it is says that if I pass the array variable, it says that it's a type which is of array type and all. It cannot print, or the message box cannot understand that, hey, this array is having multiple values. I need to extract all the multiple values and print the values, right? In that case, what we'll try to use? We will try to loop the particular array type variable. So in that case, what we'll do for each list of items, which one you want to loop? For the array variable type, I want to loop. And what do you want to do? I just want to print those values using a message box, right? So in the message box, the item which you're trying to use is current text, right? So now let's try to execute our particular logic to see if all your values are getting printed one by one. Okay, we have a value called Kiran, we have value called Pradeep, we have value called Patru. Right? All the values got printed one by one. Right? So now let's try to create. So in this particular concept, we have just seen how to create a array type variable, right? And also we have just seen how to get the count, how to get the index value by just passing the index. And finally, we have just seen how to basically a loop using a for each act. In the for each, we are just saying. So we have another variable type called list also. Okay, we have another variable type called list. So what is the difference between array and a list? Array, it stores the values. It's a collection of similar type of elements. And also, if you can see here, the list also says that it's a collection of similar type of elements, right? But what is the difference between the array and the list? The size of a array type variable is fixed during your creation. So let's say that I provided 3 values called Kiran, Pradeep and Patrudu, right? So all the size is fixed here. The size is 3, right? But if it is a list variable, during your execution, you can add the values, delete the values, and perform some operations on it. So that's the reason why we try to uh, that's the reason to avoid in some cases creating array, we'll try to go with the list. The simple thing is the size of a particular list file is dynamic, but the size of a particular array type variable is static during your creation, right? So let's try to create a list variable. So what I'll do, I'll just create a weekly list variable. So under variables, I'll just say like list underscore var. Here I am not able to see the list type. I'll just click on browse for types. So this is the namespace I have for creating your list variable. System.collections.generic.list. Okay. So here I'll try to select something called list of t. So which is of string type. Fine. So earlier, if you can see, if it was array type, it just says like string of 2 square braces. But so I'm trying to just store a list of string types. I'll use assign here. So I'm just trying to say, so list var, and I want to provide a values to this. So you have a syntax, new list of, this is the syntax basically of string. Since you're trying to store values for the list of string, and we need to provide the values from in the curly braces, right? So in the curly braces, I can just provide. So what are the values I'm providing? I'm providing Kiran. I'm providing values called Pradeep. I'm providing values called Patru, right? So Kiran, you said that you can just add the values, right? How we can add the values? So I have some activities here related to collection variables. So I'll just search for collections here. So what I'll do, I'll add values to the collection here. So you have append items to collection where you can add items to the collection. What I'll do, I'll just simply use write line to see what is the count before adding the values and what is the count after adding the values, right? So what I'll say, list var dot count is the function, right? Dot toString. The same message box right line I'll try to use after adding the values. So I'll append the values here to the collection. To which collection you want to add? To list var collection I want to add. So what is the values you want to add? I want to just add values called hyper automation. And so we just want to add some values called UiPath. And we just want to add a value called AI, right? So these were the values I just added in terms of my particular process, right? So 4 items got added here. So now let's say that I want to print all the values. You can just use again for each to just utilize the same concept here. A list of items is basically list var, and you can just simply use your message box to print all the values. So message box and you're saying the current text. So let me just run the file. So you're getting values Kiran, Pradeep, and Kauthur. Right? If it is array variable, this is the values you'll get. Since we have utilized the list type, where we can see that the size of things can be altered. So we have something called hyperautomation, UiPath, AI. Right? So earlier it was 3, we have added 4 elements. So now it was 7. So this is what we can do in terms of list variable. So let's quickly jump into other concept called data tables. I'll just create a data table. So where I'll just use a simple Excel to just read the data for us. It's like we'll use it from build data table. I'm just trying to build a data table here. So the basic definition of data table is to store tabular data. So let's say that I'm just trying to create a name. I'm trying to create this name, gender, location. Okay. Simply, I'm just trying to provide values called Kiran. Gender is male. Location is Hyderabad. So I have Pradeep, male. Gender is and location is Hyderabad. So I'll have some value called Priya, female, and the location is Bangalore. So I'll have a value called Sudha, female, and location is Hyderabad. Right. So how many rows I have here? Basically, I have 4 rows. Okay, how many columns I have? I have 3 columns. Let's see what we can do with this data. Since I created this, I'll go to properties and I'll say, so the value is dt1. Control K, dt1. Okay. So you can see here the type of variable I've created is basically data table, right? So now I'll just use simple message box to get the row count and the column count. So how to get the row count and the column count? So we have something called rows count function to get the row count. For that we'll use dt1 dot rows count. So rows count is number again, right? So we'll just use dot to string. And we'll try to print also the column count. So we have something called columns count. So for that, what is the function we'll try to use? We'll try to use dt1 dot columns count dot string, right? So we're just trying to see how we can get the rows count as well as the column count. So we have seen that we have 4 rows and 3 columns, right? So let's say I just want to convert this particular data table into a string variable. So we have an activity called output data table. So let's say what is the data table you want to convert? So it's dt1, and you want to convert that into a string. What I'll do, I'll say like str dt1, right? So simply I just want to use a message box to print the values. What I'll just use a message box to parse the values. And fine. So we have 4 rows and 3 columns, and these are the values. So Kiran, male. So now I have a small requirement that I want to get people from Hyderabad location, which are male. So initially, you know that people from Hyderabad location, let's say initially you have Kiran, Pradeep, and Sudha, right? If you want only the male, so you will get value of Kiran and Pradeep. So how you can actually use filter data table. So we'll just use a single activity of filter data table to just filter the data which is required for us. So what I'll say, so your input is basically there in dt1, and I want to store the value in that same dt1. So what is the column you want to go with? So I want to say that the location is basically Hyderabad. So the location is equals to something called HYD, right? So how many people will get as an outcome here? Earlier we know that it was of 4 values, but now you will get only Sai, Pradeep and Sudha. Okay. So you will get only Kiran, Pradeep and Sudha. But we are not able to see something on Priya because she is from the Bangalore location. Now I want to see only the male persons, not the female persons. So you'll configure the filter. So again, you will say instead of location, now I want to go with the gender. So which is equals to male. So we have value called capital M, right? So I'll just use those things. So save all and run the file. So we have initially 4 rows, but after doing my filter, so you'll get only values which is related to Kiran and Pradeep, because I'm searching for people who are there in location of Hyderabad and the gender is male. Okay. So you can do lots of functions using data tables, but we have just seen how to create a data table, how to get the rows count, columns count, how to use a filter data table, how to actually convert your data table into a string variable, right? So now we'll just go with the simple concept of variables we have just seen. We'll just wind up with understanding what we can just do with what I can say, arguments. What is the purpose of utilizing the arguments? We'll take next 5 minutes and we'll just wind up. Right. So let's say that I have created a variable called tt1, right? But so the sequence I've created or the flowchart I've created is data table. But I want to utilize that particular variable in this list underscore var file. If I search for the variables, you can't get something called dt1 here. Can I search in dt data function? Of course, there also I'm not able to see. In integer variables, can I see the value of dt1? Of course, no. But how I can get the value which has been created in one XAML to be passed into other XAMLs. So since we have a restriction of scope of a particular variable is maximum to a particular XAML you have created, whether it's a sequence or a flowchart. But if you want to pass the values from one XAML to another XAML, we have a concept of utilizing something called as an argument. Right. So what I'll do is I'll just create a small flowchart. Okay. So let me just create a small sequence here. So let's say that it's a file one. Okay. And I also create, I'll just use another sequence. Let's say please file two. So the value which I just created in this file one should be passed into the file two. So how can I do that? The concept of argument is to just pass the values from one XAML to another XAML, right? So let's say I've just create a XAML. If you can see the directions are in, out, and inner out. So in is something where you can just receive the values. Out is something where you can send the values. In or out has both the capitals of sending and receiving the values. In for receiving the values, out for sending the values. In or out has the capitals of both sending or receiving the values. So now my purpose is to just send the value. So what I'll do, so out underscore argon arg1 is something a value I just want to create. So here what I'll do in the assign, I'll assign a value called for the out argument. I'll assign a value called allow your path. Okay. I just created a value. I want to send this value into the file two. Right. So what I'll do, I'll go to the file two. I'll create an argument which is of indirection in underscore argument. And what I'll do, I'll just use a message box to print the in argument two. See, the in argument two, here I'm not having any value. But I'm just using a message box to print the value, which is getting from the file one. How I can do that, right? So what I'll do is basically I'll invoke the files into another XAML. So first of all, I'll invoke file one, and also I'll invoke file two. So how you can utilize or pass the values from another one XAML to another XAML? I'm just saying that. So first you need to make sure that you're invoking your files. How you can invoke your files? You just need to click on project folder, and you can just drag and drop how you're trying to drag and drop your activities. In a similar way, we can drag and drop your XAMLs, right? So I've utilized those things. Now I have something called import arguments. So here you're trying to send the value. So sending is nothing but we're just sending your value to another thing here. So what I'll do here, so I'll just select Control K. So store your value in value called str temp. So now argument one value, which is something hello world, is stored in str temp, right? And import arguments again. So now you're trying to pass a direction in the in. So now what I'll do, I'll store the value of str temp inside this particular argument, right? So if I just simply hit on run file, what happens? You can have your message box being printed, which is there in the second XAML, right? So similarly, let's say that I want to print that in like variables string, right? So I want to pass that value in that particular variable string also. So you have something called variable string. Where is this? Yes, right. I want to pass the value here also. First of all, I want to create an argument here, arguments. So in underscore argument 3, it's of in direction, right? So in the main, I'll just say like import arguments. The same value which is passed out of your particular XAML, I'm just trying to pass using strtem, right? So here I'll use a message box to print the value also. I'll use a message box. So I'll write here printing values for argument in multiple files. So I'll say like in argument 3 is the value which I just want to get printed, right? So if you want to run your main XAML, what happens first? So in the file 1, you won't have anything, only your assign was there. In the file 2, you'll have your message box to print hello UiPath. So why this all these values are getting? Value of variable is hello world. So printing values for argument in multiple files is hello UiPath, right? So since we have another message box also here, right? So it is printing that particular value. So we have our major intention of this passing the values in multiple XAMLs is achieved using the arguments, right? So that is the concept we just want of deliver in terms of string operations and all, as well as variables and arguments, right? So you can write multiple functions here in the data table instead of utilizing last thing. I'll just go with instead of utilizing this thing, I'll use simply an assign here using filter data table. I'll use assign and I'll just want to store here in the same DT1 and I'll write a simple link query. So write a link query to just filter data table of columns location with the HYD value and gender with the M value, right? So you have automatically, it has automatically created for you, right? So I basically don't know how to create a link query, but I've just provided some input and it has created for me. Let's see whether it will, the same function will help us in just doing that thing. I've just deleted the filter data table and the same filter condition I've just written here in my link query. Right, you have 4 rows, but you are getting values for Kiran and Pradeep, which is male basically, right? So as simple as that, like so based on your logic, you just need to provide those inputs and all, which will help us in getting the things required for us. Right. Any doubts or any queries, please do let us know, or else we'll just wind up the session for today.
Yeah, sir, a small doubt I have. In variable type, when we use variable by default, no, it select a string variable. But I don't know which variable will select here. Just I want to ask you, there have any other option to select variable which will work for all project?
So for the whole project, same thing, like see, so when you're trying to create a variable, so variable will be having a specific functionality here. So I want
Yes.
to store some contact name. So I'll create something called str contact name, right? So that str contact name is something where I'm trying to use it for a purpose, right? If there is something called as uh, a website you want to launch, www.abc.com. So I just want to pass it across all your particular project. And I'll just create a small argument and I'll just pass it across all my examples. It really depends how you want to utilize this variables.
Okay, so fine.
I have a query. In case if we update the parameters, the arguments in the child task, so do we need to change again in the parent task?
Sorry, can you come back again?
I mean, if we are updating the values or any change in the flow of
Mhm.
the child task, I mean to the base workflow.
So,
So
so
when we are invoking the workflow, right, which is already invoked and we changed it later part. So do we need to update the values again in the invoke workflow in main task?
no, we won't do that. We won't do that. See, let's say that my intention of the workflow, let's say, we are passing multiple XAMLs. Our basic logic will be just divided into multiple XAMLs basically. Like yesterday, how Pradeep was saying, first logic is for registration, second logic for submit, third logic is for like closing your applications. So let's say that initial value for my first registration initially, while writing my exam, my percentage is like 70. After evaluation, let's say my value, my marks are updated to 75. So initial value of your marks will be 70, but after writing your doing your revaluation logic, your value got updated to 75. So no need to update. We'll just use the updated value based on the logics we have created. No need to call it in the childs and all. So our intention is to make sure that the values get updated in the course of your particular logic, what we have created.
So in case if we add additional arguments in the file two, basically whatever we have already in the screen, file two, if we have the additional argument. So when we are clicking import arguments in the main workflow, so the already added values will be lost, or do we need to add the values again from 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that?
No. Already existing values will be just being there. If you just add more arguments, it will just update the existing. You need to update the existing values there.
Oh,
Thank
hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Is there any standard naming convention for variable or arguments in UiPath?
Yes,
Standard.
for that we have one of the best practices document. So we'll share it soon, so that based on that you can give the naming conventions for the variables.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that we have one of the
So
session regarding the best practices, so that we can cover it.
Sir, this autopilot feature is not available in Community Edition.
it's in community edition. It's there in community. I'm using community
Sir, but
edition license.
I have UiPath Studio, but in my application it is not showing.
Please to make sure that you are updated to 2024.2.1 edition.
Okay, I have 2021.10.
No, it's
That's all.
2021. If it's 2024.2 only, you can just have the autopilot feature.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
So this autopilot is not into the enterprise edition yet, right?
It's there, right? It's in 2024.4.2 version. Since in organizations we won't utilize the very latest versions, we'll try to go with some at least
Yeah.
a stable versions. So that's the reason
And
why
is it,
you might be not
is it
able to see
beta or
that.
is it stable version?
It's
We
it's
have a
not
stable
at there
version
in the
of
stable version.
UiPath Studio. Okay.
It's not at there in the stable version. It's still there in the beta versions. It's there in the general availability of UiPath.
Okay, I have a normal question. We generally say RPA automation, and now we are saying hyper automation. So, what is the exactly? I mean, the basic difference between automation and hyper automation? Is it because of the AI enabled features that we're getting on a rate? I mean, and enhancements we're getting on a recent times, or how is it? What is the basic
Exactly.
difference?
Exactly. The automation earlier we used to do only front office automations or back office automations and all. But hyper automations is something where you try to basically infuse or induce the concepts of AI, where you can achieve end-to-end automations related to the business operations and all.
Okay, so me being a UiPath developer, let us say, if I have to go outside, I generally say I am a RPA developer. Now, because this UiPath is having this AI features also coming, so what should we like? Let us say down the line after say 6 months or so, if I have to go and tell a person with UiPath background, if they have to go and say I am from so and so background, should they say I am from a hyper automation domain, or how should we?
You can say IPA instead of RPA if you have implemented any related to the artificial or something. So you can say as IPA instead of RPA.
IP is something like intelligent process automation developer.
Basically we are using UiPath, right? So UiPath, if we are using, if using UiPath, if you are using any advanced features, we can say I'm an IPA developer.
Yes. See, the project requirements earlier we used to do development only in studio only, but now we can see a lot of products being introduced, right? We have something called apps, action center, AI center, document understanding. All these features is something integrated with the artificial intelligence, right? If you are trying to utilize some ML skill, it's already been written using AI center. Obviously, you are trying to train some data and all, where artificial intelligence engineer will try to do in the backend, right? The same thing you're also trying to integrate with your UiPath and all. Or else like now we are trying to go with the integration services where you will try to integrate with the third-party applications like Salesforce, or else like ServiceNow and all these things. Again, you're working as an integration developer here. So RPA developer earlier it was a different definition, but now it's a different definition, which it's not debatable again. So just to have something in mind. It's a long
Okay,
debate that we
so
can just
one
talk for
last.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So one last question: Do we have any, do we need any additional license for having the Copilot into the enterprise edition, or is it just add-on that comes in?
It's an add-on feature, no need to buy any license.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Any other doubts? The only option is to pass a variables as arguments from one sequence to another. Is it exactly? So we cannot pass a values from one XAML to another XAML as a variable. We can pass it as an argument. Hope we are clear with the present concept we have discussed. Thanks for your time on Sunday, and also we have extended for another 20 minutes also. Thanks for bearing with us, and have a great day. Happy weekend. Thank you. Okay, so last but not least, we have a quiz, right? So we'll just share in the chat window of our WhatsApp group. We can just have it from there. Yep. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
So let me stop the recording.
Thank you.